Jerry here, D-Lab Electronics, and on the bench today I've got a 1964 Fender Super Reverb in need of attention. All the caps appear to be original and they look pretty bad. It's probably going to need tubes, resistors, you name it. A lot of TLC, and that's what I'm here for. So let's get to it. Let's give the Super Reverb a good look over before I start my maintenance. The knobs have been removed by the new owner, so it came to the shop that way. You can see the eyelet board here. Still has all the original caps. Some of them are kind of sweating, right? This guy has been replaced. Everything else internally looks pretty much original. Even has the old death cap hanging out down there. He's going to go away. I noticed a little bit of oozing from the main power transformer, but you see that quite often on these older amps. The cord restraint is missing, and we're also going to install a 3-prong grounded cord. Front panel, I want to go back to this intensity pot. The shaft is frozen, so I'm going to have to change that. The rest of them appear to be operational. Alright, let's take a look at the top of the amp. Alright, here we are top side of the Super Reverb amp. You can see she looks pretty good. A little bit of corrosion. I've already removed the cap cover so we can take a look at the filter caps, and you can see they really need to be replaced. There's a lot of sweating here showing up in the paper. There's a lot of blisters on the ends, the positive ends of the caps, so they're getting ready to spew their electrolyte all over the chassis and corrode it. So it's a good time to change them out. The output transformer, unfortunately, is not original. It's been replaced. The original must have failed sometime in the past, but luckily it is a 2-ohm secondary, so it will work on this amp. But we'll eventually put in an original. Here's the output tubes, which are Sovtech 6L6s. They've seen better days. You see they look pretty toasty. We're not going to keep those anyway. Original power transformer, choke, and the reverb transformer is also original. I have not powered the amp up yet. Let's take another look, bottom side, close up. I want to give you a good close up on the bottom side of the amp to show you how original it is. Tube sockets are all factory OEM style, as well as the capacitors. And you'll see that these 25 microfarad dual caps are also blistering right down there on the positive side. All the pots original. Wiring has not been interrupted. This thing's actually in great condition. It's ready for some restoration to give it another life. Here is the negative bias cap. It's critical that you change that cap, because if you don't, your output tubes will go up in flames. There is some seepage out of the bottom of the power transformer, but the owner has already turned this amp on and told me it powers up and plays, so I am not going to power this thing up. I'm going to change all the caps first. I'm going to give her a little bit of a check out to make sure it's safe before I put full power to this thing. So I'm already starting to gather the replacement caps. You can see these beautiful sprigs I have, and they're going to go in the place of these old originals. And of course all the caps underneath are going to be immediately changed. Now if you look at the condition of these capacitors, you'll understand why I'm not going to test them. I'm just going to change them. They're over 50 years old, so you're not going to see a test instrument. You're just going to see a soldering iron removing this crap. So if your amp has been on recently, make sure that you grab a meter, verify your caps are discharged before you get in here with your soldering iron, or you may have a little surprise. Okay? Now these 20 microfarad caps, you can see the positives all face the same direction. So these are no-brainers. You can kind of clip them out, get them out of your way, get your new caps in. But these two guys, you can see you have a negative side here and a positive side here because they're actually wired in series. So pay attention to that, or you'll have a bigger surprise when you turn your amp on. So you can see I just clipped out the old original 20 microfarad caps to get them out of my way. Our positives are all facing forward. Alright, you can see we have these little pigtail leads that are remaining from the old caps. So at this point you have two options. You can take your new caps and set them in here and make J hooks. So you can J hook them together and solder them, and that's a great connection. There's no issue with that. Or you can take these leads and actually chase them down in the eyelet with the other lead and kind of flow the solder up, which is also a great mechanical connection. Alright, the choice is yours. If you really want to like go overboard, you can take this whole eyelet board apart, take the screws out, flip things up, and wire it like they did originally. It's a lot of work. That's up to you. For this installation, I've decided to go ahead and do the J hook method. So you make a little J on this side and on the original lead. Get them nice and tight. Get them up off the other wires before you solder it. This makes a nice secure connection. So that's how I'm going to do these on this model. So this J-hook method I wanted to share with you guys is something that I learned when I was in the Air Force. We used to use this for quick, reliable repairs, and it is actually an accepted method by big aircraft companies, kind of like Boeing, right? So Boeing had a soldering course back in the day, back in the 80s that is, called high reliability soldering. And they showed us this J-hook method, turret boards, wire wrap, etc. So the J-hook method I really like because it's quick, it's reliable, and it does not interrupt the original connections that were in the amplifier. So there they are, filter caps replaced. Took about 10 minutes. Thank God for those old J-hook connections, huh? So all the top side caps are replaced. Now we're going to go to the eyelet board and the bias circuit. So for these duals, I have these single replacements, right? And then for this bias cap, which was a 25 microfarad at 50 volts, I routinely replaced them with a 33 microfarad at 160 volts. Reason for that is a little more capacitance doesn't hurt on that bias circuit, but the big plus is that 50 volts DC is right on the edge, guys. You don't want to put in another 50. You got to bump that voltage up. If you were to measure that negative bias across the cap, it meets or exceeds that voltage. So that's why I put these in. So we'll start over here, same deal. I'm just going to get in here, clip these guys out, get the new ones in. So for these little 25 microfarad dual caps that we're changing out, you don't have to J-hook those leads in. The negatives and the positive leads will pop right out of these eyelets. So you can pretty much heat them up, get your new lead, she'll drop right in there like the originals did. So there we go. All the new caps were installed. Did that entire job in about a half hour. There's a bias cap over there. Now what I want to replace before I fire this amp up are these two grid coupling caps, because if they're leaking they're going to destroy my new tubes, so they got to come out. So all the caps are in. I was getting ready to fire it up and I thought, you know, maybe I should check the screen resistors. So these guys are tucked in right here and here. They're supposed to be 470 ohms. I've got, what, 708 on that one. And 845 on that one. Better change those out, eh? Alright, I fired up the amp. I'm monitoring the current through one of the output tubes, which you can see there on the meter. Everything looks great. No smoke, No strange noises. We got my audio generator hooked up into my scope sitting here. Bring up the volume. There's the output. Now remember, I have only installed the new output tubes. All the preamp tubes are original. So I still need to verify those. Probably got some microphonics going on. Maybe even some incorrect tubes. So I still need to look at that. But putting in the new caps and bringing her up seemed to do the trick. Looks like this Super Reverb is going to live on. Alright, so there you go. You can see by this video the best approach for these old vintage amps is just change all those caps. Don't bother checking them. They're old. They need to be replaced anyway. Get them out of there and that amp will spring to life. Hope you like the video.